everybody, it's Romania Black, and look, I was going to go and get my own exercise sorbet, but then I realized that there aren't any ghostly apparitions around my house, so... Also, it's the dead of winter, and if you live in a rural area, then you probably realize that unless you go to the grocery store and just buy a pint of ice cream, which I don't usually do because I like ice cream in the summer, I'm not a winter ice cream person, most of the ice cream stores around my area are all shut down for the winter. So luckily, though, a friend gave me some candy for Christmas, and I happen to have a couple little exercised pieces of holy water shaped in the form of gummy bears that they're going to do the trick. So I have my holy water has been transformed into tiny gummy bears to eat with this episode, and that's going to be my remnants from last week. So, but this week, I'm assuming we're going to get a cuisine that would be eligible for my kitchen to recreate. I don't have an ice cream maker, so we're not going to make ice cream, but I'm excited to see what we might find. Now, also, as I'm recording this, and my dogs are so needy at my feet, the comments have started to come in for episode 1 of Dungeon Meshi on Patreon, and I'm super excited about that, and I wanted to share those comments with you before we start the episode. So, Zukatar the Immortal pointed out that the English voice actor for Laios is a YouTuber named Damien Haas. I don't know of their channel, but I don't watch a lot of reaction channels, if I'm being honest, so my YouTube interests are very different than my channel for an intentional reason, because I feel like if I watch reactors as well as anime on YouTube, then the algorithm will start picking it up, and you get those thumbnails that have spoilers in them and things like that, and I want to avoid that. So usually if I'm on YouTube, I'm watching very diverse things that have nothing to do with anime, so not to say that I wouldn't watch a reactor, but that's really awesome that somebody that's a YouTuber got to be a voice actor in the English dub. That's really cool. I'll need to check out the English dub. I know that ProZD is the voice actor for Senshi. I do know that because I love ProZD. They're an amazing voice actor, and their shorts are hilarious on YouTube, and I've watched a lot of them, so I may have to watch the dub just for that reason, but awesome to know about them as well. Kaku points out that in the Japanese actual voice cast, that Laios is voiced by Kentaro Kumagi, which I haven't heard from because he's not in any major roles. He mainly did minor characters in Haikyuu, Stranger by the Sea, from what I've watched. And then Marcel is voiced by Sayaka Simbongi, who has done a lot of really cool roles, but I haven't heard her in most of what I've watched. I have seen Violet Evergarden, where she was Olivia Webster, and then Nifa from Attack on Titan, so that's pretty cool. And then Chilchuck is voiced by Asuna Tomari, who is Kyo as a child from the Fruit Basket remake, which I sadly have not seen yet, Sheen as a kid from 86, and Cyclops from 86 as well. So that's pretty cool! I like that. I didn't know Chilchuck was voiced by a voice actress, so that's pretty bitchin'. I love that. I love when voice actresses get to voice male characters. And then Fallen is voiced by Sayori Hayami, which is one of the most popular voice actresses this year, who has been Yor from Spy Family. Okay. Anju from 86. Okay. Shinoa from Seraph of the End. All right. Shinobu from Demon Slayer. Okay. And lots of other iconic roles. And then Senshi is voiced by Hiroshi Naka, who's Grandpa Ukai from Haikyuu. Oh, that's where I know that voice. And then Shirogane from Psycho Pass. Oh, cool. Nice. Yay. Well, that's good. I'm glad that they're a familiar face. And then the opening is sung by one of Kaku's favorite Japanese groups, Bump of Chicken, who does the opening, and one of the endings of March Comes In Like a Lion, which... that series, and then opening 2 of Spy Family. So lots of fun stuff there. So thank you, Kaku, for all that information. Alex Cornejo says that Laios is indeed something. The fact that he is already a well-worn monster recipe cook makes the loss of his sister more of an excuse than a reason to finally indulge into something that he really, really wanted to do anyway. In a world where resurrection magic... I know, be good, buddy. When a world where resurrection magic is a thing, he's the kind of guy to wonder aloud whether it would work after somebody's been pooped out. Do we really need to know more about him at this point? I do appreciate that Laios, I mean, at this point, we have to consider the big thing. His sister is in the belly of a dragon, presumably. there's not much they can do except go and find her. And so in the meantime, while they're on their way, this kind of efficiently kills two birds with one stone. They get to go after the sister, and they get to try out these monster recipes at the same time. Do with what you will with that. But thank you, Alex Cornejo. I love Laios. He's maybe my favorite so far. And then Pancake says that Laios has the most basic design of a human fighter ever, but he is the weirdest one of the group, and I think that's intentional. Yeah, I thought about that too. He does have a very basic presentation, but he's so eccentric, and that's kind of the nice, I like the contrast there. The name, Pancake points out, the name Dungeon Meshi can be directly translated as dungeon meal. It's a bit of a pun on meshi, like yakimeshi, tai meshi, etc., and is localized as dungeon bap in Korean, like bibimbap and gimbap. So I think they chose delicious and dungeon in English because it can be abbreviated to D&D, referencing the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. That's what I thought too, so that kind of makes a lot of sense. I like it. And then what's really neat about the name, and so, yeah, I'm pretty down with that theory. I think that I'll probably end up calling this series both Dungeon Meshi and Delicious in Dungeon, just because they both roll off the tongue so well. So that's pretty cool. And then Mimses Osmo 5084 says that the duck and onion, both the scene and far-fetched, are based on a Japanese idiom. The spring onion and duck pair well together, so it would be lucky to get a duck carrying its own garnish. Oh, however, it's also far-fetched. Yes! So basically a convenient thing that is not going to happen, and that's how Laios uses it. Love it. Love that so much. Thank you, Mim. And then Odd Maneuver says the author of this manga absolutely adores Dungeons & Dragons. She wrote a lot more detail of the ingredients in the manga, and I think she included the nutritional value, but it's been a while since I read it. That's really cool. I don't exactly want to get too crazy into the manga, but that's pretty cool that I know the manga, I believe, is completed. So that's kind of one of the things I was excited about this series, is that it's watching a series that the manga is already done. So that means they're probably going to adapt all of it, which is a good thing. So I'm pretty excited to get into the series. And then finally, Anime Annie says for episode 1, I haven't read your comment for episode 2 yet. Don't worry, I'll get to it. And by that point, I'll probably get to episode 3 along with it. Well done for pointing out that Laios had a kink before we got to his daydreamy rant about being wrapped in the flower's vines. It definitely gave me the idea that he's into shibari, the Japanese rope tying method to hold a person down. Now, we just met Kabru last episode, and I'm already hardcore, like, wanting Kabru and Laios to meet because they seem like they'd be a cool pairing. So don't give me any ideas. What if Kabru tied Laios down? Would he be into that? Maybe. So who knows? We might get something like that in the future. I was really sad they didn't honestly get to meet outright last episode, but it's only episode 5. It's fine. And then honestly, from this episode, Laios gave me such Bokuto vibes from Haikyuu. Like, Bokuto is fantastic at volleyball and noticing things at times, but a lot of the time he can be an idiot or a baka. In the same way, Laios has an amazing knowledge of the dungeon and monsters within, but he can be a bit of a monster baka. Now we just need an Akashi, and I was like, aka Kabru? But we can dream, right? Right? No. Listen, Linda. I love Haikyuu, and Bokuto and Akashi in that series are like one of my favorite pairings of all time. So if you tell me that a big bright star of a person that's like Laios, that's kind of a baka but has all this enthusiasm and energy, could meet their companion, their counterpart that's a little bit more reserved but equally weird. No, Kabru is the Akashi to Laios' Bokuto, and you will not convince me otherwise of it. I need them to meet. I need this to happen. Make it so, series. So but I'm super excited. Thank you all so much for the comments. I know I've taken almost 10 minutes, but I wanted to dive in. Also, it has been noted that I was using for the last several episodes, apologies, the subtitles on Netflix that is the closed caption, the CC hearing, and I need to just use the regular subtitles. So I have fixed that for this episode, and I'm going to for later episodes as well. So good on us, right? Anyway, I'm super excited to see what we find out in this episode, and I hope you all are as well. But we're not going to waste any time moving forward. I'm going to plug in these bad boys, and we're going to get started and examine Delicious in Dungeon while I nibble on some gummy bears, aka holy water that's been hardened into treats. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's give episode 6 a go. Ooh, that's loud enough, man. Good. Aw, I'm not skipping this intro. How dare you? And we're going straight to the intro, so, okay. Some people also pointed out, I think it was Bamsey, that Marcel's hairstyle changes throughout the series, which I think is super cute. I love when characters change like little things about themselves. It makes it a little more realistic. I love the fake out of having these characters. Like, are we ever going to see them again? Probably not, but... There's Kabru! Look at him! He even looks like a Kashi with a tan. Oh, Fallen. I've also been told that you pronounce her name Fallen. That's what we're going with for now. Eat the rest of my holy water. Aww. It's like Yuri on one side, Yaoi on the other. Can we do that? Can Laios be the king of Yaoi and Fallen be the queen of Yuri? Can we do that? And their siblings? Interesting. I'm curious about the Griffith, because that's a griffin. The griffin that is like in the white part of the OP. I'm curious about that. Like, is that going to be in a floor of the dungeon? Maybe? And they're on the gargoyle there on the top of the tower. Oh, what we getting? Well, crap. Yes, Chilchuck's a locksmith. Get on it. Oh, no! Oh, no, Marcel! It was her stomach! Oh! We've only had snacks. Yes. We have only had snacks, but yeah. We should go for the 4th floor. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, that's not a bad idea either. But we gotta eat. Right. So we're in a paradox. We're in a loop. A food loop. Interesting. Oh. Well, this is creepy. This is super creepy, actually. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Absolutely not. Nope. Time to go. Ha! I'm with you, Marcel. I would not eat a rat either. I mean, don't speak so soon. Did he know? What? Oh no! What? A living painting? Oh. What? Oh. That's a thing? Is it? How do you get out? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, how do you get out? Oh. Really? We're gonna let him do it? Oh, wow, this is gonna be a thing? There's like little bits on the table. That's a thing? Ah! Her reaction like the fudge? Why, yes. Why, yes, I am. Oh my god. Telling Laios to not space out. Oh. Oh no. Was she stuck marrying this old man? Oh my god. Oh wow. And there's like an elf there too. Ah! Delgal. Li- Oh my god, are you kidding? What? There was no good food in there. The vibe wasn't right. The vibe. Wow. Wow. I mean, you should have known when you saw the baby in the painting. Not a... Their faces! They're like, are you freaking kidding me? Oh. A fancy party. Laios is like, naked people, you had me. Their faces! The ditto face! It gets me every time. And that same girl is there. Wow, is this like the same family? Oh, it is him! It is him! Yeah, the baby. Yes. And there's that same elf. Oh. Wow. Like the rope's not conspicuous at all. Wow. Oh. Oh no. No! Not poisoning the king! Just ignore it! Oh my god! Oh. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my gosh. No! Marcel's like, I'm gonna kill him! At the chair! Chilchuck has the chair! Oh my god. There we go! Oh my god, we can make this. So we did. I like that we're getting this. Oh no, is he gonna drink that and die? Oh my god. Don't do it, Laios. Don't do it. Oh my god. Though it might taste like paint. No, Laios, stay away from the lead-based paint. Don't eat the paint chips. She's like, I love it. I love it. Like, no. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. Oh, fudge. Oh no, get him out of there. Freerin. Well, we're glad that does that make Marcella a half elf if she looks more human? Oh, I'm not surprised. Oh my god. Because you ate paint, bitch. Cinchi, what are you doing? Since she's like, oh no, since she's gathering the rope up. I thought since she was about to go dive in that painting next. Okay. Well. A mimic. Oh. Ooh. Are we against the mimics? Are you going to go after the mimic? Oh my god. Yeah, they will. I love it. I love we're going to talk about free rent in this in the discussion. Oh. Oh! Ah! I guess this is him with mimics over the years. Oh my god. Ah! Oh, who, me? What? Wait, have we established... Oh, come on. Come on, tell us how old you are. I feel like Chilchuck is older than he appears, but I was going to guess like mid-20s. Oh. Oh. Oh, she's so pretty. Ooh. Oh, Marcel being like, oh, it's dangerous. Is that mimic going to be there? Bitch, no. You know it's a trap. It's going to lead you to that damn mimic. Oh. Oh, shit. No! Oh, no! Oh, no. Oh, no. No! She probably won't! She's asleep! All right, Chilchuck. Get it. Get it. Oh, my God. Oh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. Interesting. Hmm. Wow. Oh, my God. Oh. Oh, my gosh. Hmm. No, it's too risky. Oh, I love how he's thinking this out. Oh. Oh, fuck! No! No! Oh! Oh, my... Oh, shit! Oh, my God! It's a crab! Oh! I thought it was... We're going to talk about the discussion. Oh, my God. Shut up, Laios! Why are you obsessed with that? He just wants to watch monsters. Fuck. Oh, I love this animation with him. Oh! Oh! Sweetheart! Oh, honey! Oh, Chilchuck, honey! The bug. Oh. No. Oh. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Chilchuck! You can do it! Go! Oh. Oh. Oh my God. Oh. He's like, you want to cook it? Sure, thanks. What a fine mimic! No. Don't worry, Marcel. I've got my cookbook. Oh my God. She's like, why? But why? Oh my God. Oh. Wow. The salt meme. The salt meme. And wait a while. Yes. Its antennas are moving! No! No, no! Laios like, I need the crab now. I need the crab meat now, bitch. I need it now! Bless Chilchuck's heart, sweetheart. It turns like a lobster. Yes. Nice. Gotta crack it. Gotta crack it open. Right. Look at him sewing. Look at him, how cute. No, no, not my tools. Oh no. He looks so much like David Tennant, it's not even funny. It's really good. Friendship. God, this humor is exactly up my alley. Marcel's like, oh my God. Yeah. Ah. Yeah. Oh. 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 He's like, bitch, what? Tell us. 29. Was he gonna say 30 though? Yeah. Mr. Chilchuck. Because Laios isn't that old. Oh my God. Bitch, no. Oh my gosh. Yes, please. He was going to say 30 something, but then he said 29. He was going to say 30 something. Chilchuck gives the vibes of someone in their 30s. So I fully believe that. I full on believe he's in his 30s for sure. Mm-hmm. I do like the CD a lot. Oh, the humor is so good in this show. It's so damn funny. I love it. I'm like, yes, please. We're going to have to talk about this, but do we have an end scene? It looks like, do we have an end credit scene? Maybe? I can never tell with this streaming service because it's like, they do the after credits after it. Oh, yeah, and when the dragons get lifted out, you can see Senshi. I couldn't remember that. Oh, Marcel, sweetheart. Mm-hmm. And Chilchuck being like, what are you doing? Oh man, that's it. Oh, come on now. Oh, well. That was a pretty good episode. Oh, I wanted to know how old Chilchuck was, and he was about to say 29. So I'm going to guess he's in his 30s, and that kind of checks out with his attitude. He definitely strikes, he has a millennial chord to him. I feel, I'm in my 30s too, so I feel the vibe. I chill with you, Chilchuck. We are kindred spirits in that regard. This was a great episode. Oh my God. This episode was hilarious, and it played with tropes and did certain things that I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh, really? We can do that? Also, something that's really kind of cool about Delicious in Dungeon is the world building and how organic it is. It's so fascinating to watch this series. And as it unfolds, they kind of just reveal new things to you. And you're like, wait, you can do that? And then they just kind of give an explanation or don't give an explanation. And you just have to kind of go with it. But there were a lot of moments here that I kind of connected to another series that I watched last year, which was Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And so I am going to talk a little bit about that at some point, but we'll cross that bridge. When we get to the mimics mainly, we'll talk about Frieren. But I do love Laios and his idea of, should we eat something before we go any further? Should we camp out for the night? I see Laios and Sinchi having kind of, I see where they come at it from two different angles. Laios's perspective is, well, there's no point in us moving any further because if we come across something in this new room, and it's dangerous, then we need our rest and we need to have strength to move forward. But then he doesn't have any food, so he's hungry. And Sinchi's argument is, well, if we get down to the fourth floor, there's more food down there and we can regain our strength faster. Whereas if we just kind of sit around and dwindle here, we might pass out. So I get where they're both coming from, which was really fun. And then Chilchuck's like, my job is just to unlock the doors. So I'm just going to keep doing my job. But I also love Marcel getting upset and embarrassed when Chilchuck thought it was her stomach grumbling. But yes, they've only had snacks today, just the treasure bugs, which can relate. That's all we had last week to eat and had our little treasure bugs here today. So it's like, what are we going to do? Also, the idea, oh my God, the world building that the treasure bugs get inside the mimic chest and eat the mimic from within and then become a treasure chest of jewels. That's so cool. I love that. That's such good world building. And of course, Laios knows all about the monsters. He knows how their reproductive cycles work. Everything is like, here's how you sex a mimic. And Chilchuck's like, I don't care. Laios is like, I'm just trying to help. Like, I love it. I freaking love Laios. And I love Chilchuck too. I really gained an appreciation. I love all of these characters. Like, they're all so different. And I love them for different reasons. But they're also endearing. Like, this series makes the characters super endearing right from the start. And I love just this conversation between them. And some of them have certain angles for some things rather than others. One thing that is for certain and universal is this dungeon be creepy. And they're just like, oh, an abandoned dining room in this castle. What? Huh? So we get a little backstory about this castle and who it was owned by previously, with the Prince Delgal and with the king that was poisoned and the mysterious elf that has been around. Now, a couple things have been brought up with this episode, and obviously spoilers are a thing, so you don't have to comment in the comments down below about this. It's fine. You can just say interesting theories and have like a little magnifying glass or something, or somebody sipping a tea glass. Whatever emoji you want to use. If you want to say interesting theories, but the fact that the one elf that can melt armor with its hands seemingly has not aged and was loyal to the family. I'm super curious about that and if they're still around, because it doesn't look like they aged. And if you've watched Frieren, you know that elves can live for quite a long time. But also, Chilchuck kind of looks over to Marcel when he says, we don't know how old you all are. Laios is in his late teens. That part's pretty clear. I'm going to guess Sinchi's in his late 30s. Or he could be in his late 20s. Facial hair can be deceiving. But Marcel, I feel like she's in her 20s too. I don't feel like she's that old. And Chilchuck looked over to her like, how old are you? Because she's an elf. But the way that the one elf in the painting looked, I wonder, is Marcel a full elf or is Marcel half human, half elf? Because she doesn't exactly, like, her skin tone is very like flesh colored like a human's, but you know, because the elf had like orange skin, right? Like it looked like a Dorito. And so I'm very curious to see if that will ever be talked on. Laios, to the author's credit, Laios never said what was chasing him. He's like, oh, an intruder saw me. Somebody realized they're an outsider and I had to leave. Didn't say it was an elf. Probably didn't cross Laios' mind, but interesting. And I'm curious if that elf still does exist, if it sees Laios in the future and is like, you were in the painting. You know about our family secrets. And Laios is like, I was just trying to eat some food. I don't really know. So yeah, because I mean, the elf in the painting, it's like one thing that was really cool about the world building is it felt like they transported, like Laios went back in time through the living paintings to experience the time, which has happened in a Doctor Who episode. The idea of traveling through paintings, which has happened in a Doctor Who episode. So again, Chilchuck is David Tennant. So I love the fandom believes he looks like David Tennant too, which I was just, the living painting was giving me very much Doctor Who vibes. And I was like, ooh, because it is like a moment in time frozen in a portrait. And so I thought that was really, really cool. But I'm wondering if that elf will now think that Laios is maybe tied to the death of the king that happened hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago. What do we do with that, right? So I thought that was really fascinating because, yeah, the room that they're in is exactly the same as the room from the past. Also, pictures that have the eyes that move terrify me. My grandmother, or not my grandmother, but my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, my great aunt, she had a giant, like as big as my berserk blanket here, had a giant portrait that was the American Gothic painting where it's the farmer and the farmer's wife and they have the pitchfork, and it was in her house above her bed of all places. And I loved my great aunt, but that painting terrified me as a child because the painting, if you've ever seen American Gothic, it's one of those things where the character's eyes look straight at you and they follow you around in a room. The painting's eyes will follow you. And as a kid, it terrified me. So the idea of the living painting was super scary. But yeah, I do think it's interesting that they note that there's not a rat or anything here. And Chilchuck's like, why is it always dead humans who attack us? That's a real good question, actually, that I hadn't even thought about until Chilchuck brings it up. Yeah, there really are zombies that attack them. And I mean, I guess the coin bugs count, but there's not a lot of like rats and things that attack them. My guess or theory would be because the humans are eating the rats or eating the other animals that are in the dungeon, kind of like what they're doing. And that's why there's not a lot of them around. So they're eating the rats. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I think that's an interesting question to bring up. And then Laios is like, let me just go into the painting. And I do think it's great that Marcel saves Laios in that moment. Good for her. Because she's like, you could have gotten sucked in. And he's like, but why? And he's like, well, I could eat the stuff in the painting if I was allowed to go. He's like, isn't that a great idea? And she's like, no, you're a moron. And then they do the whole pie in the sky metaphor saying, well, it's just like that. You know, you can't actually eat the pie in the sky, but what if I can go in this painting and do it? What I appreciate about this group is that Marcel and Chilchuck and Cinchi, they don't just tell Laios he's stupid and not to do it. They really do respect his opinion. And even when they think his ideas are not great, they don't just dissuade him or discount those ideas. They just try to maybe argue them and put some logic behind them. But here, even though they know it's dangerous, they respect that Laios has an idea. He wants to see it through. He offers a solution. He's like, well, I'll tie a rope around my waist and you can pull me out of the painting if needed. And they were like, okay, we'll try it then. And I love that. I love that his friends are supportive. His comrades are supportive of him. And that's so sweet, actually. It helps to make their bond like even bigger. So he's like, yeah, we'll just go inside and get the food and go. And they're like, we'll try it once. And then they end up trying it 3 times. Now, if I were looking at this painting and seeing the food, he's like, oh, there's a lot of delicious food there. I'm like, is there? There's not a lot of delicious food on those plates. They look pretty bare. Also, there's a baby in those paintings. So, I mean, looking at this, the vibe clearly looks like it's not there. And then I love that Laios is like, I couldn't stay there because of the vibe. Ridiculous. Also, the facial expressions of the maiden that he just pops in the painting. She's like her expressions the entire time were killing me. Especially when he's like, can I have seconds? And she just kind of like eases around him. That was so funny. The humor in this series is amazing. That was so funny. But yeah, so they end up going there. He ends up going there, and we see the young Prince Delgal being born. And they're like, what a handsome royal lad. And then we see the elf that's with the queen as like the minstrel there as well. But I just love Laios' face where he's like, I'm just not digging the vibe. His face where he's like, I don't want to really be in the middle of this family gathering. This seems kind of weird. So he leaves. I love Marcel and Chilchuck's face where he's like, the vibe wasn't there. And they're like, you could have died and you didn't eat because the vibe wasn't there. I love that Marcel and Chilchuck's eyes change, and since she's just looked completely black and soulless as per usual. Amazing. Amazing. But yeah, so then they show this painting here, and I want to see if there was like a close-up of it. Okay, so we see in the painting, there are people having a dancing party. They're dancing on the roof. Everybody's celebrating. And it does look like someone is dancing naked there. And it looks like there's a horse and stuff in the background. I was trying to see if there was anything hidden that would point to the poison, but I don't really see anything in the painting that does that. And Chilchuck's like, well, you know, it looks like they're having a fancy party and there's someone dancing naked. And Laios like, this is it! Laios is here for monsters and a good time. So it don't take much to please Laios. He's probably thinking, if there's people dancing naked in this scene, then the vibe is probably going to be there. It's going to be a big rager and he can just go in and get some food. But then everything's going great. We have like, it looks like the prince and he's marrying. He lands, of course, on the table of the prince and his new bride, this redheaded woman. And so then, of course, everybody's like, what are you doing in front of the king? And they all kick him out. But like, this is my wedding day. So this guy got a little too... I like that they were like, well, you know, there's a bunch of drunks here, so he's just probably one of them. But yeah, so then we see the elf again, and the elf notices Laios and is like, you're the guy from before. Interesting. I'm surprised nobody commented on just the rope that Laios is dragging behind him. I was waiting for the elf to use their firepower to snap the rope, is what I was waiting on. But luckily, we didn't get to that point. I was waiting for that to happen, but... So they're like, to the future of the kingdom. And I'm assuming that's the kingdom that they're all in the dungeon for as of late. But then, yeah, he ends up getting poisoned. Laios is like, shit. And they're like, oh no, father. And he's like, what do I do? So one thing that is great about this series that's such dark humor, but I'm kind of here for it, is that Laios sees like this murder happen in front of him. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to take this food with me. Because honestly, there's nothing Laios can do. It's a painting. These events have already happened. He's just like, shit. And so he just grabs the food to go. It's like, it's such dark humor. It's very British humor. And I am 1,000 times here for it. It felt like Monty Python. It felt something straight out of Monty Python's Flying Circus. I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And then he's like, I'll just quietly enjoy them later. But then as he's gathering the food, the elf runs past and bumps through him. And the elf is like, Your Majesty, and seems super sad that the king died. So again, I'm going to wonder if the elf is going to show back up in the future and be like, were you responsible? And Laios is going to be like, I just went into a living painting to get some food. I don't know what to tell you. So we'll see. But then Laios gets back. Doesn't have any food because you can't take food out of the painting. So they decide to go to the coronation. Funny how all these pictures are in succession. And it's a crowning ceremony and they go in there. Now, when Laios showed up in front of the banquet, I was expecting like it to be like another poisoning because they had those giant ass chalices. The chalices that could hold like a gallon of liquid in them. And they're like, may this kingdom and its people flourish for eternity. Okay. And Laios is like, look, I don't know the lore behind this. Although, on the wall there is the Griffith there is the Griffith with the same crown and stuff on it that we've seen on all the other castle details. So interesting indeed. And Laios is like, I guess I'll drink this too. And he's like, oh, thank God. It's actually edible. So then we have the feast, right? The actual meal. He's like, it might taste like paint, but it is a real feast. Oh my God. And he's like, thank goodness. And he's just sitting there devouring it. Right? Oh my God. Now see, this is something we can make, right? This is something that could be made. I think we could let this work. This has potential. This has a lot of potential. I'm excited about it. So I wanted to see if we got like a close-up of the actual food and what we could see, but I want to see an actual close-up of the meal itself, but I feel like I'll look it up at some point in here. Are we not going to get any more of the feast? Dang it. I want to see more of it. Because it looked like there was, what was on the table there? It looked like there was maybe soybeans or edamame and fish. And it looked like there was maybe some turkey or something. And something was there. Interesting. It looked really good. And there was some bread. I think that that's something we could definitely make. I think that it is doable. Right? Perhaps. Possibly. But yeah, so the elf, of course, that stumbles upon him is like, why are you... And I like that the elf's design, too. Over the course of the series, the elf, like, looks a little bit more different. Like, their hairstyles changes, and their hair gets longer, and they also look crazier, and their eyes now have bags under them, like they've, witnessed the murder of the king, and they're like, who are you, and what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing? You were there when the prince was born, and you were also at his wedding. And now you're here. So what is your purpose? Are you after the throne? And Laios is like, I just wanted some food. So it's interesting to note that the elves can potentially turn you to ash if they want to. So that's great. Good deal. Okay. But yeah, Laios gets back and is like, what am I going to do? There was no food. So yeah. So it didn't end up working out for them. He didn't get food. He just ended up eating paint chips. Poor Laios. He's like, I just wanted my pie in the sky. So like, well, they end up going to this one side room where there's some water. And they're like, we're just going to stop and rest for a bit. I like that since she kind of scolds him. He's like, we could have been to the 4th floor by now. And Laios is like, I'm sorry. And that's when Chilchuck notices the mimic. The mimic in the box. And he's like, and I love the idea. It feels very Doctor Who, but it feels very Doctor Who, very Dungeons and Dragons, that the mimics kind of like appear out of the corner of your eye and you just barely notice that they're there and they're to lure you. But I am so fascinated by the fact that Chilchuck hates mimics. It's great. Because I'm not going to give major Frieren spoilers, but I'm going to wave my arms when I'm done talking about Frieren. But in Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, Frieren is an elf, and she also loves mimics. She loves mimics because there's the possibility that inside the mimic, in that world, it could be a treasure box or it could be a mimic. So she's like, she always wants to open up all the treasure boxes because there's a 1% chance it's going to be treasure. And if it's a mimic, 99% of the times, Frieren knows how to kill the mimics. So it ends up working out for us. So end of Frieren spoilers. But I like the contrast that Chilchuck does not like mimics. He's not approving of the mimics. He has had to deal with them in the past. And honestly, the mimics in this series are a little bit different than Frieren. So I thought that was kind of, at first, when we see the flashback of Chilchuck, he's like, they're just going to insist on us eating it. When Chilchuck said that they were going to be insistent upon them eating the mimics, I was like, but the mimics in Frieren are a little bit different than they are in here, in this world. And I was like, how do you eat a mimic? It's just a box. No, in this world, there is something in the box that makes it a mimic. And so we do the flashback of them causing him misery, and we see him as a little kid, and he's like, oh, it doesn't have a lock or a trap. And he opens it up and gets immediately, like, in the neck by the crab. And at first I thought that the crab claw was just like something random, that it was going to change every time. It wasn't going to be a crab every time. And so he was like, nope. Because then we see him a little bit older. And he's like, well, since it was locked, it's not a mimic. And then he gets sucked in. So I thought that it was different because we didn't see the crab claw the second time. And then the third time, he's like, I'll open it from behind. And we see him with a different traveling party there. And he's even in different clothing there too, right? He's like, it won't be able to hurt me. And then it blows up from the trap. So yeah, I thought that the mimic just changed every time. I didn't realize it had a crustacean within it, but I like the different looks of clothes that Chilchuck has every time. We see him growing up and he has like freckles and everything. So I feel like he's in his 30s and he's just lied to everybody because he doesn't want to admit that he's maybe he could be the oldest one in the party. He could be older than Cinchi. And I don't know if he's ready to admit that or not. But if I were Chilchuck, I would be a little bit annoyed whenever Cinchi's like, well, you're still a child after all. And he's like, damn it, I'm in my 30s. Like, I would be... Chilchuck has a lot of patience, which he is a thief and he is a locksmith, so that makes sense. But I also like that Chilchuck, we get a little bit about his personality, that he doesn't like to mix, work with personal life. So he doesn't want to get too close to Laios and Marcel and Cinchi, which to me is also a signal of how old he is, because he's probably changed parties a lot. Because he's a pickpocket, so they only need him for certain missions, and then he's gone on to the next group. And so I don't know if this is the group he's been with the longest, but he clearly doesn't want to get to know them because he might have lost former team members. He might have been kicked off by former teams. He might have did jobs and left and went somewhere else. So I'm curious why he's with this party specifically and why he's stayed with this party specifically. But I guess the show will give us more about that as we go. But yeah, so the animation in this second half of the episode, especially, it got kind of stylistic and experimental, and I loved it with Chilchuck, but he looks so innocent. Like, I could see why they think he looks young, because at times he's super innocent. Also, Marcel with her hair down is so pretty. And she's like, it's dangerous. Like, she's half asleep. She's also so cute, bundled up against the candle in her little blanket. So cute. But he goes to the room and he sees the treasure bug and he chases it, and that leads him to the room with the mimic. And then he gets trapped there. Yep, sure is. So he's like, I can't call for help because that'll make the treasure bugs. And he's like, well, maybe Marcel will wake up. Will she? No, she probably won't. I love that he has no faith in Marcel. He's like, nope, she's going to sleep through. I'm screwed. Like, that part was hilarious. He's like, I can't count on her. So he tries to go throughout the room. Again, Chilchuck kind of showing his experience at least, because he knows that there's traps everywhere, and in the corners of the rooms there are traps. So I honestly love the twist that the one box at the beginning that he thought was the mimic was just an empty box. And the one treasure chest that he sits on ends up being the mimic. And that whole reveal when he sits up on the box was amazing. So good. But then seeing the plaque that's in the language of the treasure bugs, which is interesting because it's like this was the castle that was in the paintings that Laios visited. So how it's changed over time and evolved. It seems like the castle and dungeon has evolved as well, along with everything else. And then the idea that there are little traps in the floor. He's like, if only Marcel was around. If Marcel heard him asking her to be around, she would have been thrilled. But yeah, I like that the treasure chest the mimic was in. It's kind of like they talk about it as being like a hermit crab shedding one shell or one box and associating into another one. That was so cool. But yeah, he shows where all the traps in the room are around. And he's like, what do I do? Where do I go? And then yeah, we have the moment with the mimic. The part where he hurt himself and cut himself to get away from the mimic was legit terrifying. And here's the thing, throughout the whole scene where he was trying to figure out where the trap doors and stuff were in the scene, something I really appreciate about this show is that they established that there are legit stakes. People die in this show, and they don't shy away from that. So Chilchuck, it's not like, oh, we'll just see what traps work and there'll be an Acme explosion and everything will be fine. No, they treat it pretty seriously. They may have a dark sense of humor about it, but Chilchuck knows that the mimic and these other things could kill him. So it adds a lot of gravity to the scene when you realize that they could die at any moment. And this is actually kind of serious. Even when Laios and Marcel are being kind of dramatic or eccentric, Chilchuck kind of brings a lot of gravity to this episode, which I really appreciated it. Although I do love when he was like running away and picturing Laios in his mind being like, well, how would Laios solve this problem? And the animation gets all stylistic and really cool. And he's like, it's like, why are these mimics tough? And he's like, mimics are cute when you turn them over and they wiggle their legs. You can tell their sex by turning them over. And he's like, stop talking, Laios. Laios and his monster kink, you know. He's like, Laios' useless trivia is coming back to me one after another. But yeah, and he's like, turn them over. And he's like, as if it would be possible. And then the animation in this scene here got so good. Oh, it was great. But yeah, he turns the mimic over onto its back and tries to get out before it can, like, get back up again. And he's like, this was what was on the plate. And then, yeah, he manages to get out and trap the mimic right at the last minute. I love that Marcel did finally wake up and led them outside to be like, let's go find Chilchuck. He never came back, in her little pajama pants. And then they find him with his ripped scarf and ripped vest, bleeding, and then the mimic is trapped under the door. And of course, the first thing, I love that Laios, like, points to the mimic, and since she's like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? They're like, we're going to eat this. Meanwhile, Marcel's like, are you okay? And he's like, I'm alive. Poor Chilchuck. And they're like, did you do this, Chilchuck? Well done. Laios is like, we're going to have lobster tonight. What a fine mimic. I just love Laios petting it. What a fine mimic. And since she's like, I've never cooked one before. But it essentially is a lobster. So we're not going to be making mimic because you all have watched me make lobster already. Maybe in the future, if we have another crustacean that is able to be cooked, I can try the lobster again. But lobster's expensive. And honestly, I feel like this mimic kind of resembles more like king crab or something you could get more food out of. You don't get a lot of meat out of a lobster tail, if I'm being quite honest. And I don't want to boil a full lobster. That just seems... Here's my thing. I would only be able to eat this mimic if you chopped its head off and I couldn't see it. I can't do crawdads because you can see their little beady eyes. I can't eat anything that looks back at me. No. Cannot do that. So I can't eat lobster whole or like crawdads. I can be like parts of them if they're cooked, but I don't know. I do love that Marcel at first is like, what if it poisons us? Are you kidding me? And then by the end of it, she's like just gnawing away at this lobster because it's not poisonous and it's actually delicious. But okay, looking at Laios' little monster book, he has a little book with the mimic in it, and it has like, it shows like at the very end where the mimic got into the helmet of the soldier's thing. We see that at the very end, and it's in his book. Like it travels from skulls to helmets to treasure boxes, and then you see like the mimic's little eggs, and then you see their little larvae, and then you see how they grow. And Laios like, look, he has like little Post-its in his book and all the little extra notes and details. That's so cool. I love that. That's actually really clever. And then Chilchuck's just sitting there sewing his clothes back together, which good on Chilchuck for having sewing skills, but I'm sad he got blood all over his clothes. And he's like, I won't eat it no matter what. So they chop it up, and I love since she does the salt meme. And then they decide to boil it. It was a little bit creepy when they put the thing over there and the boiling water was making its like antennae fluctuate. And then he's like, and then you sit there and wait. So freaking cute. Since she with his unmoving eyes is actually adorable. And so then, yeah, Laios is pacing back and forth being like, I'm ready for my lobster. And Chilchuck and them are just sitting there sewing everything up. And then it's done. Now, I feel for Chilchuck because while the boiled mimic does look good, they need the tools to get it out. I thought they were going to do like cracking the shell. I thought they were going to crack the shell and then pop it out. But instead they decide to use his picking tools. And poor Chilchuck. Here's another thing. I feel like Chilchuck is older than he looks because the tools have special significance to him and have meaning. And he's like, wait, no, those tools are important to me. What are you doing? And I felt so bad for him. He was like, no, not my picking tools. But they're like, oh, we'll just disinfect them. Don't you worry. And as he's being held back, as they get him, Marcel's like, really? And then at the very end, when he picks it out and just slowly eats it, and he's like, it's really good. The humor in this series is amazing, and I'm in love with it. This episode was so funny. And then they ate all of it, and that's when Marcel's like, maybe you should open up to us because, you could learn some things. And that's when Laios is like, the treasured bugs eat the mimics. And Chilchuck's like, wow, that would have been nice to know. So she's like, just tell us how old you are. Now I said that, and they said this year I turned 29. I'm like, you were going to say 30 something, weren't you? And they're like, so you really are a kid. How boring. I didn't know you were so young. And he's like, well, then tell me all your ages. I don't like long-lived races. So it's like, And then, of course, Laios is not that old. So it's funny. And then the narrator says, today you feast on a monster, but tomorrow you could end up being someone's meal. Oh, dungeon food. I love it. So I think that Chilchuck lied about his age, which everybody in their 30s say that they're 29, right? That's the joke. If you're in your 30s, you say that you're 29 so that way you don't appear as older. I bet he's like 38, honestly. I bet that's why he said that, but I could be wrong. At first, I thought he was mid-20s, but the moment he lied about it, I'm like, oh, no, you're in your late 30s, and you're just lying about it so nobody knows, but anyway, this episode was adorable, and I loved it, and I'm really excited about next week to see what we get, but I am very curious about the meal that we're going to be getting in this episode to see what we're going to get as far as the meals go. So I wanted to kind of go around here and see in the painting him getting in there. Because he says he looks at the meal in front of him. Yeah, there we go. A full course of court cuisine. So we have what looks like chicken. It looks like fish with edamame. Looks like cheese and beans. We can do stuff with that. That looks maybe like some pork loin or something. I'm super curious. And fruit. I'm super curious what we're going to get with this, but this seems like stuff we could make. So with that being said, looking like things that are edible that we can totally put together, you know what? Why don't we do that? So we're going to start doing a little bit of cooking before the end of this episode, and then afterwards, I'll see you all next week for another episode, episode 7 of Delicious in Dungeon. And I'll see you there. Bye. Hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are doing a cooking segment today, but just like the court cuisine, it's gonna be a little bit, imaginary in some areas. But I did want to answer your questions from Patreon, and I did say I was going to do a cooking segment between episodes 5 and 6. So let's talk real quick about what we're going to do today, because it's around the holiday season as I'm recording. There's a lot of stuff going on, and so finding time to prep and cook everything is a little bit difficult. Y'all know where I'm coming from. Unfortunately, my brother can't be here to help me today because he got called into work, so we're going to have to do this basically rogue style, improv style, much like Laios in episode 6 with the full court cuisine. Now, this is not going to be the full court cuisine for a couple of reasons. One, because of what is involved, and 2, because I'm eating by myself today. And I don't want to be wasteful with food. So, what we are going to do is we do have some fruit, grapes and some apples mainly. The apple's not out here, but we're going to have our fruit because part of the full course cuisine as well. Now, the recipe also called for cow's cheese, which is basically just cheese, I'm assuming. I didn't know exactly what type to go with, so I decided to be a little bit bougie for the rural area that I'm in and get something that I thought would go really good with the fish. So I got this cream Havarti that has dill in it. I figured that since she would be very happy if I got something with dill in it, some seasoning, something that's not just plain cheese. So, and plus I feel like it would go pretty good with the fish. So this was just at the grocery store. It does have all natural stuff in it, so it feels more authentic to the Dungeon Meshi brand. Then I've gone a step above frozen bread from the last episode with restaurant-made bread. I actually had a Christmas work party that I had to go to the other day, and they needed somebody to bring bread, and I'm like, me, but I didn't want to make bread because it's 2025. So I went to a restaurant and they had some loaves of bread that you could buy. I felt like Aladdin and a boo stealing a loaf of bread to eat in the streets. But this, it looks really good. Has some Asiago on top of it, some Parmesan. Looks pretty good. It looks like it would fit a full course cuisine. Now, we are not doing roast duck because one, there's no place near me that has roast duck. And two, I'm just eating by myself, so I didn't feel like it would be, I felt like it would be wasteful for me to get fish and a bird, like to have two at the same time, and I didn't want to waste the product. So we're gonna hold off on the duck. Also, I didn't know what exactly was in the bowls. One was wine, and the other one was pumpkin soup, apparently. But Laios never really even mentions or eats that I can see in the episode the pumpkin soup. Maybe he scarfs it down real quick. Look, I've got the stuff to make pumpkin soup in the works. But again, since I'm eating by myself today and my brother's not able to join me, I thought I'm gonna save the pumpkin soup for a future episode. And pumpkin seems like a pretty available resource in this world. So I'm gonna assume that they're probably gonna eat pumpkin soup at some other point in this season, and we'll make it for a future episode. And if next week they're not making anything great, we'll probably just make it for that episode and do a segment there. So we'll see where that goes. But instead, what I wanted to do was do the soybean as well as the fish. Now, again, I'm by myself today, and so there are not just soybeans or edamame just lying around the grocery store. Hashtag real problems. So we're gonna full court cuisine this and steam up some edamame. So the main thing we're gonna be cooking though today is our fish. Now, raw fish freaks me out, mainly because there's a lot of risk if you don't know what you're doing of making yourself sick. And I am not a sushi chef, and I also felt just on the borderline with lobster. So we're doing full college prep, full imaginary chef making. And so I went to the store and dropped some money on just some cod, because it looked like cod in the picture, although it does have butter and herb. But we are going to go a little step above. We're not just going to pop this in the stove, and we're not going to put this in the microwave. We are going to do a stovetop preparation of this in addition to answering questions today, and then see how it all tastes and go from there. So it should be a fun time. It won't be a very long cooking segment, but I'm happy to answer your questions. So let's get this started. All right, so we are ready to start. And luckily, the piece of filet fish, the nice thing is that they're like individually wrapped, which is really nice and very convenient if you're by yourself making this. And it says it's easy to open. I was ready to go full on psycho on this, but luckily it says it's easy to open. So I'm probably gonna leave that in. But yeah, so we're gonna open this sucker up and we are gonna put this into our skillet. I wanna get all of the butter and herb out, so we're gonna like let that drain a little bit over the top of it. That looks really good. Ooh, gotta be careful that the butter and stuff doesn't pop back up and scorch you in the arm. But we're gonna just let that all drain on there. Now it said to cover, I did let these thaw out a little bit while I was getting stuff ready, so it said to let it saute covered for 12 to 14 minutes, which should be about the time that we do all of our question and answering, so we'll take care of that. I'm gonna move this around just a wee bit, let it kind of simmer and soak in there, get all that up on there. I'm gonna let that soak on there. Awesome. Now I did lightly grease the pan with some Irish butter, which I really, one of my friends, she is like really into like eating whole foods and making her own food. Like she is literally living off the land. Like she has her own sheep that she like gets wool from, and she also gets like goat's milk, and she has her own sheep that she butchers for like lamb and everything. She's insane, but she's all about Irish butter, and so she's kind of got me onto it. So I'm gonna give it a shot here. Seemed like it would fit. So in any case, I'm gonna set a timer now, and while that is sauteing, we're gonna look at some of the questions that you all have. I actually haven't read them. I've been looking through, I just wrote them down, and so we're gonna go through these questions you all had on Patreon and see if we can get some answers while our fish is sauteing. So Liam Poles says, where do you want the story to go to from here now that you've stepped into it a bit, long-term wise? Ooh, I would say, honestly, as far as the story goes, definitely I want them to see Fallon. I want them to go to Fallon and rescue her, and if it's possible, from the dragon. I can't imagine that she's dead, because that would be really heartbreaking and horrible, but I'm hoping that they're able to rescue her. But then after that point, it's really interesting because they bring up the whole idea of the mage and the fact that you could, you're supposed to kill the mage to become the king of the castle and everything. But then as we've been going through this series, there's all this talk about what people are doing. Like, are they just, dungeon crawling? Or are they setting up settlements? Or are they just living in the dungeon and the mage doesn't matter? So what has me really intrigued is knowing that once we get to Fallon, where do we go to from here? Like, what is beyond rescuing Laios' sister that's in store for these characters? So I am really intrigued, but I definitely want to get to the dragon to see what's going to go down with them rescuing the sister, and if it's going to be successful, what's going to happen, since she doesn't even know who she is. So, and we don't know much about her character at this point, so I'm just really intrigued overall about that part of the story, and I'm sure that will change as we go. They also asked, are there any monsters or dishes that you hope to get featured? Everyone has their favorites. What's really cool about this series is the idea that I've not really, experienced some of these dishes before. Like, I'd heard of hot pot in some anime, but I'd never had it myself before. And there are some of these things that I've seen eaten before, but would never think to eat myself, like putting lobster in a hot pot or making the omelet with parsnips and things like that. So I would say I'm really excited to see, are they going to eat the dragon? Are they going to eat the dragon? What do you do with that? The dragon is huge. They showed in the ED the dragon getting hoisted out of the dungeon, and since she was walking by, so I'm assuming since she knows what to do with a dragon, maybe. I can't remember if since she said they'd ate a dragon yet or not, or just knew about it. I don't know, but the dragon is probably what I'm most interested in, but I'm wondering, like, are they gonna make a pizza? Because that would be kind of cool. Are they gonna make, like, their version of a pastry, what we call the Pop-Tart, commercially, but are they gonna make something like that? Like, are there novelty items that we know as audiences, because we eat them every day, that the series is going to craft themselves, their version of it? So that part's gonna be really interesting to see. Are we gonna have dragon sandwiches? Basically. And I'm gonna actually, before getting this, oh no! Probably wanna move this around a wee bit, because it's getting all up in there. All the butter and stuff's getting a little bit combobulated. Ooh. I might turn that down just a hair, because it looks like it's getting cooked. Looks like it's getting cooked really good. So it said low to medium, so we might want to turn that down just a hair so it doesn't get burnt. I'm going to turn the fan on. But, so next we have Pancake, who asks, from episode 5 and 6, what is the message of the coin bugs and the paintings and the mimics? I think the first thing that comes to mind is the idea that looks are deceiving. Just the idea of how we expected the coin bugs to be treasure and they weren't. We expected characters to be dead and maybe they weren't. I don't know, unless they get resurrected or whatever. But also, like, with the paintings, the idea of, like, looks are deceiving. Like, can you eat this stuff, or is it real or artificial? And then I guess another message would be that there's a lot about this world that some people know more than others, and there's a lot that we don't know. Like, just how, Laios has a big, vast knowledge about the monsters in this world because of his book, but Marcel and Chilchuck and others didn't know things. Like, Chilchuck with the mimic didn't know certain things about the coin bugs eating the mimic that Laios knew. So I would say the two biggest messages from the last 2 episodes have been, one, looks are deceiving, as we're learning about these characters and the situations that they're in. But 2, we don't know everything, and not everybody does know everything. Like, there's bits and pieces, like even the elf in the painting seems confused about why Laios is there, and probably has the wrong misconception of Laios' character from what we, the audience, know. So I thought those were the 2 biggest messages of the series, but as I'm recording this, you all haven't commented yet on episodes 5 and 6, so I'm gonna be very curious to see what you all say about the episodes themselves. All right, we're gonna check before Pancake's other question. I wanna double check. Ooh, it's hot. Oh, maybe the oven was a better idea. because this poor, like all of the herbs and stuff are a little bit burnty crispy. We're gonna have to cook that sucker over a little bit. We still got about 4 more minutes with it though before it's cooked. So we believe. I want to make sure it's pretty thoroughly cooked though. So we're gonna simmer that around in there. Make sure it's all legit. I mean, to be honest, food poisoning is not on my agenda today, or any day. So Pancake's next question is, what are your thoughts on the world building? I love the world building. I think, honestly, one of my favorite parts about this series so far is that we find things out very nonchalantly, and the series doesn't bring a great deal of attention to it. Like somebody pointed out in the comments that I'm going to talk about in the intro for episode 7 that, yeah, characters have died and been resurrected. And the series just says that it happens, and you're like, wait, what? So it could be back in episode 5 that Kabru and the others did actually die, and they're gonna get resurrected. So I'm like, what is happening? It could be that Laios' sister is eaten by the dragon, but can she be resurrected? Is she gonna get pooped out? We don't know. So I feel like the world building, the cool thing about it is it's not that the world building is wacky and doesn't follow rules and is unconventional and doesn't make sense. It's not that. It's like once you figure out the world building and it's explained, it makes all the sense in the world. But until that happens, you kind of just have to, we are at the whim of the series. We are at the whim of the mangaka to explain whatever they want to explain to us. And we just have to, we're on a need-to-know basis. We just have to figure out as we go, which is refreshing. And I like it kind of more than a big exposition dump, if I'm being honest. So that part's pretty cool. I like it. Nice. Well, this looks mildly done. I think the poor butter, I think the big problem with it is that the butter and garlic burnt, which is a sad day. I got hasty. I told you all last time with the garlic in the omelet, I got too hasty and I turned my temp up too high. And this is why cooking and me are like not the bestest, because I got too hasty. Couldn't be hasty, Master Mary. So, all right, we'll answer one more question and then we're gonna move this fish out of here because it's about done and I don't wanna burn it too much. But the next question is, or the last one from Pancake is, since the show is influenced by video games, especially RPGs, do you have any knowledge or experience about that? I feel like I've lived vicariously with RPGs through my brother playing video games, but also through going to conventions and also through college where people were playing RPGs and there were LARPers and stuff on the college quad and everything. The only RPG I think I mean, do we count Pokemon as an RPG? If we count Pokemon as an RPG, then yes, that's the biggest franchise I've played with. I have played Final Fantasy 7, 10, unfortunately 10-2, and then a little bits of 8 and 9, so I've played a little bit of the Final Fantasy series, mostly 10. Final Fantasy 10 was my first Final Fantasy when it first came out, and I was like blown away by the graphics at that time. They were amazing. I still think they hold up, but I was obsessed with you and everything. And then, of course, Final Fantasy VII with Cloud and Aerith and Sephiroth. I was obsessed. But yeah, those are the only real experiences I've had with RPGs. I know a lot of them, and if people say an RPG, I'm like, oh, I know that series, but I've not played them as much. They're fun. I mean, Pokemon, I love all of the different gens of Pokemon. They're a lot of fun, but I don't necessarily have as much experience with them. So one thing that's cool about this series and like Free Run Beyond Journey's End is I'm kind of getting more into that genre that I've heard about all these years but haven't had as much experience with. So I think this fish is about done, honestly. I've probably burnt it enough. So I'm gonna get this and the rest of our lunch together and then we'll come back and see how it tastes. Well, this doesn't look like the most extravagant meal we've ever had on the channel for Dungeon Meshi, but I'm gonna be honest, this looks kind of like one of the more well-balanced meals. This has lots of things that I like. So the fruit that you can get, they had apples and grapes in the picture. I just went with black seedless grapes because I love black grapes. They're super sweet. I'm more of a sweet grape person than a sour grape person, so do with that with what you will. But so good. You can't beat a good grape. And I like raisins too, so that's fine. Now the fish, I'm gonna be honest, and y'all are probably gonna be like, really, Romania? But the little black crispies of the burnt butter and garlic, maybe it's because I was raised on burnt popcorn, but they're not bad. The burnt crispies aren't bad, honestly. I feel bad because they're probably terrible for me. But, all right, this fish has shriveled a little bit. Maybe fish are just not in the cards for me, but it looks well done. So it doesn't look raw, which is good. So we're gonna just have some of this cod and see how it tastes. I think if I hadn't burnt the butter and garlic so bad, I just put the tip too high. I need to learn. I feel like I do better with soups, because with soups, especially if you are gonna like when we made the garden fresh soup, we had to cook the bacon first and then use the bacon grease as part of the stock. And I feel like you can kind of adjust quicker with the soups because you're like, oh yeah, this base doesn't look right. And you can make adjustments. When you're cooking fish, you're like, well, there it is. So I feel like I just got the pan way too hot before I put the fish in. But as far as fish fillets go, this isn't bad. It would be pricier at a restaurant. I think it was like, for 2 fillets, it was like $8, which I probably wouldn't order this all the time. But if I was just making it for me and my brother, that's not bad. The edamame and the fruit and stuff wasn't that expensive. So I do love cod though, and this was a good cod piece. But then we have edamame. The edamame surprises me the most because honestly, I didn't think store-bought frozen edamame, you know, sometimes you get store-bought frozen vegetables and you open up the bag after you microwave it and you're like, oh, it's slimy and gross. No, this edamame, it looks like, am I getting served frozen edamame at a Japanese sushi restaurant that's just been out of the bag like this? Because this looks exactly like it, I'm not gonna lie. You can obviously get some soy sauce, but this tastes like the edamame at the Japanese sushi restaurant. Are they getting frozen edamame and serving it? They could be, y'all. We could be getting tricked. This tastes exactly like it, which is concerning to me. Have I been bamboozled into paying $6 for a plate of edamame that I could get for $3 at the grocery store in a bag? I think the trick is out. This tastes exactly like the sushi restaurant edamame. It's lightly salted. If you go to the grocery store, if you're in the US, I don't know how it is overseas or in Europe, but there's it's a Steam Fresh brand. And it's just frozen edamame and just lightly sea salted, and it literally comes out of the bag. There's no slime, there's no gross. This tastes like the edamame at the sushi restaurant, and now I feel like I've been bamboozled. But it is really good. You put some soy sauce on there if you want to. I didn't this time around because the recipe on the episode didn't call for it, and honestly, you don't need soy sauce. This is just salted perfectly. And y'all, I have a whole pile of it here where you can see how much there is here. There's a whole bowl of it over there. This is like not even a fourth. I'm gonna have to refrigerate some of the leftovers and have it later for dinner because there's just so much of it. But it's really, really good. And now I didn't do wine because it's midday. I'm not that much of a lush, but I do have some cranberry ginger ale because ginger ale is amazing. Why wouldn't you drink ginger ale? And it's cranberry for the holidays. Now, the one thing I am curious about is the bread over here does have, I'm gonna get like a little tiny piece of it. Some of the bread and then this cheese I'm super curious about because the cheese actually has consistency like butter, which is kind of cool. I guess because it's decent cheese and not the cheapo cheese, but it has a consistency like butter, which I'm not used to cheese having that. I'm an American, and so our cheese usually is not, well, American cheese isn't cheese. Don't eat American cheese, just ugh. But this actually looks really good and has the dill seed in it, so. The Havarti, y'all. The Havarti with dill on this bread was just life-giving. I gained an extra life. This was the resurrection item that I needed after battling a mimic and the coin bugs. Oh my god. consistency. It's like just a little firmer butter, which cheese is a dairy product, it makes sense. But y'all, no, the Havarti, I don't know if you're very up on your cheeses. I almost got a brie, which I do like brie a lot, but I felt with the edamame that was being salted, and then with the fish having more of a buttery garlic taste to it, I wanted to do the Havarti with the dill, because it's not sweet, but it's just like a hint of savory with that cheese. I'm gonna take a little piece of the cheese, the Havarti with dill, and the fish, and see, does that? It's over, y'all. That cheese is the best thing so far. Of my cooking experiences. Oh, where has it been all my life? I've never gotten Havarti with dill, and it's literally the best cheese I may have had in a long time. Oh, And with the bread, I highly encourage you. If you're like, oh, I don't want to eat butter, I want something more than butter on my bread, get this Havarti with dill and spread that, just slice it like you would butter and put it on that bread. Oh my God. That with the fish and the edamame, and you balance it with some grapes. I would imagine the roast duck would have been really, really good, but I felt like this is enough to keep me full for a while. Roast duck would have been going a little bit over the top, but who knows? If we make the pumpkin soup in a future episode, then we might just add the roast duck. I feel like if you've noticed in Dungeon Meshi, they incorporate a lot of the same ingredients or items and reuse them in new ways, which is very sustainable and very mindful considering of the resources. So I have no doubt that we're gonna get to make that pumpkin soup. I've got the stuff to make it en route, but so that will happen on a future episode, and who knows, maybe we'll get some roasted duck. We'll just have to wait and see. But this is by far, I think, the most balanced meal I've had so far in the channel, and it was the easiest to make, which it's a full court cuisine, but it's also an illusion. So this food is real, but the cooking was pretty much illusionary this episode. So hopefully you all still enjoyed it and enjoyed the answers to the questions that I got. I will be putting out more prompts on Patreon for future episodes for questions that you all have, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you all have to ask me about. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with more adventures in cooking and in reacting to delicious in dungeon. Bye!